Hi Flosstube, I'm Deb, I'm the Traveling Stocking Stitcher, and I'm so glad you could join me here today. Today's episode, well, it's clearly all about lemons. I've called this episode, When Life Gives You Lemons, seems like drinking limoncello on the Amalfi Coast really is the better option. We went to the Amalfi Coast in 2019 in southern Italy, and so I have been working on things to remind me of that trip. And so I've got a lemony fresh finished object to show you today that reminds me of the Amalfi Coast. I've got another whip that's pretty far along that reminds me of Sorrento. I've got a Capri whip that I have been dug out and been working on that I can show you today. And then I've got some lemon fun facts. And so we've got a lot to squeeze in today. So pucker up, it's going to be a lumpy rind. The first up, we have my first finished object. This is called Lemons Cross-Stitch Blue Tile. It's on Etsy from Natalka Studio, and it's on 16 count white, so it's 9.4 inches by 9.4 inches. Here it is. It's really, really pretty. And then I like to put them in 11 by 14 frames so they look like travel posters. And so I added the name of Amalfi at the bottom. I found a font that I liked and I modified it a little bit. If you can see, I added in the light blue that kind of mirrors the shadowing around the blue frame. And then I designed the Maltese crosses that go on either side. The Maltese cross is of Byzantine origin. It dates back to the 6th century, and it's an 8-pointed cross that was adopted by Amalfi, which was an ancient maritime republic located in southern Italy after the year 1080. And when the order eventually moved to Malta in 1530, it became referred to as the Cross of Malta instead. But you see this in a lot of places. There's the jetty in the Sea of Amalfi. Amalfi has railing that looks like this. So I just charted that up. There's a similar one if you wanted a large size one. There is one as a freebie on the Artisty website, but that was a little too big for my uses. So I just went and took a pencil and figured out how I could chart it. So a couple of months ago, I was at a garage sale and I debated buying this find that I found. I wasn't sure exactly what it was. It was some skeins, some big honkin' skeins. I mean, enormous skeins of floss. Because I wasn't sure exactly what they were, but they had little DMC tags on them. I don't know if you can see that or not. It says DMC. But I think they're very, very old. This one had a 517 on it. It's got something that says 25. I don't know if that's a clue. If anybody knows what these are, please let me know. But these tags were so brittle that when I picked one up to look at it, it just broke in half. It was like dust. And so I got this, which did have a 517 tag on it. And this looks to be $6.99. This one, we'll see more of that in a minute, but this is $7.83. And then this is $7.97, which is the call for on this. And turned out really good because this particular thing has 9,540 stitches of $7.97 in it. So there's a lot of this color. The whole primary background and the blue background and the frame is all primarily that color blue with $7.99 as the shadowing color. And then, of course, the name, I ended up using that as well. And those are the colors that are common to Amalfi. So I think I paid $1 for this. I don't know if anybody knows anything about it, because I tried to do some quantification. I weighed one of these skeins on our kitchen scale, and it came up to about 100 grams. And then I tried to weigh some regular DMC skeins that you buy at Michael's, and they didn't even register. So I put 2 of them on the scale, and it came up to 2 grams, because it can't do anything more than 1 gram at a time. So even with the wrappers on them, they ended up being about maybe a gram. So if this is 100 grams, this is equivalent to 100 skeins of DMC. And like I said, I paid maybe $1 for this. I looked up the cones, because you can buy the cones of DMC at Joann's or what have you. And those are 450 yards. So at this weight, 970 yards would be almost twice the size of a cone. And the cones run about $35 at Joann's, so we're looking at maybe $65 per, 60 some dollars per individual one. I've got 4 of these that I paid $1 for. And it turns out I could really use them. There's 6-strand DMC. I tried looking online, couldn't find anything of them. They're not obviously in cone shaped form. So, you know, so if the price is about 60 cents, the street value is probably about $60 a piece per hank. So please leave comments below if you've seen these and know what they are, where you can get them. I think, like I said, they're very old. But it was quite a find. It was right when I was starting to think about doing this. That's the reason I actually bought them without doing a lot of research, and didn't know exactly what I had in my hands, but it turned out perfectly for this. So very happy with that. Very pretty. Just love the bold colors of the blue and the yellow together. So, Amalfi fun facts. Amalfi lemons. The Amalfi lemon is called the Sfusato de Amalfi. It's commonly known as a great source of vitamin C. It yields no less than 25% of its volume in juice and has a higher vitamin C content than almost any other lemons. It's medium thick, light yellow peel, and has an intense aroma due to its high terpene content. Apparently this is the characteristic that is responsible for the aromas, flavors, and colors associated with various types of vegetation. And this is really essential, this characteristic, in producing limoncello. So they've done chemical studies. There was a food service research study done, and they show that the peel of the Amalfi Coast lemon also has a superior aromatic potency, more than any other, and an elevated number of oil glands. So they're putting out some serious aroma. They're huge. They can be almost as big as your face, or like a melon-sized thing, and they don't have very many seeds. The skin is softer and not as bitter, so you could actually eat it like an orange. We didn't try that. I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know that until I started researching. I guess I'll have to go back. They're also larger on average than other varieties, with each fruit weighing at least 100 grams. That's almost 1/4 pound per lemon. The lemon trees that bloom 5 times annually, which I'm kind of surprised at that, so you can harvest lemons between January and the end of October, although the best time to do that is between March and late July. We did visit a grove that was in the middle of Sorrento. The Sfusato are grown only along a 20-mile strip along the Amalfi Coast. This is between Vietri sul Mare and Positano, that can legally be called and sold as an Amalfi lemon. So there are some strict guidelines around what can be considered an Amalfi lemon. We did have some granate with this shaved ice with lemon on it. Highly recommend that as well. Next thing I have to show you, this is called Majolika Italian Tiles Sicily by Cross Stitch GB. It's my current whip, and here it is. It is on 20 count white Lugana even weave from Zweigert. It's 190 by 190, so on this 20 count it ends up being about 9.5 by 9.5 inches. I like to put them in 11 by 14 inch frames, and so at the bottom I will put the word Sorrento at the bottom. This reminds me of Sorrento. And it reminds me of Italian tiles. You see Italian tiles everywhere. Very similar to this. You find there's a church in Capri that the entire floor is Adam and Eve, the creation, and they've got all these animals and creatures, and you can't walk in the middle. You have to walk on these floorboards that go around the outside, the perimeter of the main floor, because it's all beautiful Majolika ware tile that is done there. Now the Majolika ware you see around dates back to the late 15th century. And there were certain colors that they have. So it's a white tin glaze, and there are 5 natural materials used as paints. So they have cobalt blue, which explains some of the Amalfi colors here. They have antimony yellow, iron red, copper green, and manganese purple. So this one actually is a little more muted, and I kind of like this as a contrast, because you do see a lot of the bolder colors, but I like kind of the more muted colors on this one as well. And you see the whole gamut of things from really bright, garish, almost Majolika, to the more subtle things that we saw, like for instance on Capri. Here's a twist, little lemon pun. The lemons in Sorrento are not the same as the ones that are in the Amalfi Coast, even though it's only about 20 miles away, because the Amalfi Coast is on the Tyrrhenian Sea, and Sorrento is on the Bay of Naples, as is Capri. So the lemon varieties that you get are different. Sorrento lemons are known as Limone de Sorrento. They're slightly rounder than their spindly Amalfi counterparts. The production of lemons, it involves the whole town. The division of labor, the men decide where the plants are going to be cultivated and which lemons are going to be picked, and the women get to carry them down the side of the hillside. Now, a basket full of lemons can be up to 55 pounds or 25 kilograms, so the women are hoisting these things down while the men are going, that one, that one. One other recommendation that I have, if you can't get hold of limoncello, meloncello. If you can find meloncello, we had some meloncello in Lake Como, and I've searched for it ever since and can't find it again. But it was so delicious. It's made out of, I assume cantaloupe or some sort of melons. It was an orangey kind of color thing, but very delicious as well. And as I recommend the limoncello as well. So the next whip I have to show you, it's been, I don't know, probably a year and a half since I've worked on this, and I've dug it out because I'm working on Italian pieces. So this is from Mystic Stitch Inc. And again, unfortunately, they are out of business, and because I wish I would have loaded up on a few more of their things had I known. But this is a vintage travel poster that they've converted into cross stitch. VT15 is the number. And I was a little frustrated with this, and so I put it aside for a while. Not a big coverage person. It's fairly confetti heavy in places, not all throughout, and it was looking very pixelated. But I dug it out again. It's like I got this much invested in it. So here's what I have. I wanted to at least get down to where I have the lettering. So I've got some of the Capri going on along here. My hope was that I could just leave this all white here and not have to stitch it in. I'm thinking I might have to stitch it in. I don't know. But that's kind of what I have. It's on 14 count white. And I don't know how you people that do switching out whips, I picked this up after, months and months, and just finding the place to start again took me an hour to figure out, because this was all basically the same color, so it's so slow and so time consuming. I mean, I've gotten used to Pattern Keeper, but this is a paper copy, and I've got a working paper copy, and I don't want to mess up the original copy, and you have to have another thing to look at the key and finding out where you are and doing your stitches and checking them off and in pencil, so you can mess up, you can correct it. It's so slow going, but I'm getting into the home stretch. I think it's manageable, so I probably will finish it off at least. So like I said, we stayed in Sorrento, which it's okay. I mean, it's not as historic or as scenic necessarily as some of the other dramatic coastlines things, but it's a good place to stay if logistically it works out well. We went to Pompeii on a day trip. Herculaneum is also a smaller but actually more well preserved ruin, similar to Pompeii, that was destroyed during the eruption of Vesuvius. We didn't go there because I figured do one or the other. Near Naples, we took the ferry to Capri from Sorrento, to avoid having to drive the Amalfi Coast, which you really do not want to drive that. It's pretty harrowing and slow, and we took a bus tour that went the length of the Amalfi Coast. So we could see the cities, and they let us off at Positano and Ravello and Amalfi, so we could spend like 90 minutes in each town looking at things, and then drove back to Sorrento. But from Sorrento we took the ferry to Capri, took the ferry from Capri to Atrani, and right next to Amalfi, and then went home through Naples going the other direction. So limited how much we had to drive on that road. So we didn't even rent a car because you don't want to do that. Not related to the Amalfi Coast because it's not geographically the same place, but it is a whip that I will show you, and it is Italian related, and I've done a little bit of work, not a ton. Thank goodness that Kitschy Whips, Maggie at Kitschy Whips, and Amy from My Fiber Arts Amy do a monthly Zoom call, because otherwise I would have not pulled this out in the last couple of months. But this is my Venice Mandala, and I love it. It's fun to work on. I just have been working on some other stuff. When you do Flosstube, you know, it's a tough taskmaster. You gotta do these other things and get them ready for stuff. So especially when you do theme-related things, I always feel like I'm stitching to do the next theme. So I would like to finish this up, but this is where we are. Done a little bit more in this corner, way down here. But yeah, they have monthly Zoom calls that we talk about chatelaines, and this forces me to pull it out and work on it. So it's such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful piece. I do want to finish it soon. And it goes pretty fast. It's on a 28 count even weave that I find very easy to work on, enjoyable to work on. I would highly recommend it. Now let's talk about things that are future planned things, or things that I've seen in searching for Amalfi Coast related things that have intrigued me that I may do in the future. Things that I have, things that I've looked at. So next up is, this one's called Amalfi, and it says number 26-111. I thought it said the name on here, so I didn't write it down. It starts with a V. I've seen it on Etsy or eBay. I'll put it down in the notes because I can't remember. It was either Veronica or Valerie or something like that. But this is the town of Atrani, and it is the place that we stayed. And it's right next to Amalfi. It's only like a 5-minute walk, and it's just this amazing, beautiful town. I mean, there's steps. There's massive amounts of steps. It's basically a bunch of buildings crammed into this massive rock face. And it's just beautiful, stunning. If you have not watched Ripley on Netflix, I would highly recommend it. It's based on the talented Mr. Ripley that was a Patricia Highsmith novel in the 1950s, and it was originally filmed in 1999 with Matt Damon and Jude Law and Gwyneth Paltrow in color, but this particular Netflix version is filmed in black and white. And this cinematography is gorgeous. It's a testament to Italy, how beautiful it is, because I think I've been to 20 countries, and Italy is the most beautiful country I've ever been to. And if you can film something in black and white and still come away with how gorgeous it is, when the colors and the vibrancy of Italy is so important, but if you can film this in black and white and still come away with it as being just spectacular scenery, it's stunning. They shot this new version of Ripley in Atrani, a great deal of it in Atrani, so unfortunately it's probably going to be overrun with people wanting to go see it. Venice, Capri, Naples, and Rome. It stars Andrew Scott, who was, if you watched the Sherlock series that had Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman in it, he was Moriarty, and he also was the hot priest in Fleabag, who really stole the show on that one. Didn't even have a name, he was just called the hot priest. And I didn't realize until much later that Sting's kid is in it. He plays Freddie Miles. So, Sting, the police. Like I said, if you're not into murdering sociopaths, I'm not giving anything away there, kind of the whole premise of it. Just turn the sound off and just watch the pictures. It is an intriguing kind of cat and mouse game with the detective and kind of keeping one step ahead, and he travels throughout all of these different fabulous Italian cities. So I really enjoyed it. So what I picked out to do that on is I don't want to stitch, all the sky. So I've ordered two things. They're both from Tom and Lily Creates. I've ordered some stuff from them before, and despite the fact that they're in France, they're pretty reasonable for shipping costs and stuff, and they just really have beautiful stuff. The one I thought I would use is Turquoise Blue. It's a 20 count. I want this again to fit into 14 by 11 by 14. I don't know if you can really see that well. Got a little bit of modeling. It's not really showing up, and it's showing up much more blue than this is really a turquoisey color. The other one I have, I'll hold it up next to it, is called Santorini, which looks to me, now you can see a little bit difference of, this is the turquoise and this is the Santorini blue. The Santorini blue is a 22 count versus a 20 count. So either one of those two is what I want to do this on, without having to stitch all that stuff. It's a lot of confetti. Between the Capri piece, I've up here with the confetti. It's in paper copy. I don't know if I get into Pattern Keeper, but we'll see. Some other options that I have. I've had this book for a while. This is from Cross Stitch Collections, and they have a variety of different things out here. This is Viva Italia, and they've got different names of posters. But this is no joke. This is a book. This is 72 pages of charts. Now again, I would probably do this on a colored fabric. They've got it sort of faded into from dark blue to lighter blue. I mean, I would probably just do this and lettering, and just I wouldn't worry so much about whether it faded down to nothing or not. So, but this Cross Stitch Collectibles, they have a variety of different things out there. Vintage Amalfi Coast travel poster is available from Cross Stitch Collectibles. It's also available from Serenity Stitchworks. Again, if you're very interested in sort of oil painting kinds of things. There is also from that Serenity Stitchworks is a place called an item called Pergola in Atrani. It's painted by Carl Frederick Agard, and it's also available on Amazon. And it looks to me like the Terrazzo del Infinito, which is in Via Cimbrone. It's in this town high on the hill in Ravello, Italy. And you've seen pictures of this place. It's looking over the ocean. It's got these white busts of different people there, and we went up there early in the morning. We were the only ones there. There's one guy there from Serbia who was taking pictures, and then he left. We talked to him a little bit, and he left. So we had the entire place to ourselves. So it was a very, very beautiful area. There's also a view to the Amalfi Coast, also painted by Carl Frederick Agard from Serenity Stitchworks. But again, full coverage. It's not quite my thing, but it reminds me very much of Italy. So if you're interested in that and that's your deal, I'd recommend that to you. I mentioned Ravello. That was one of the places we stopped on our tour of the Amalfi Coast. There is a garden up there that looks very much like this. This is the courtyard. This is artwork by Kent Wallace, also from Mystic Stitch. And it seems manageable. On 22 count, it would be 7.27 inches by 909 inches. On 14 count, it's 1143 by 14.29 inches. But again, paper copy, Pattern Keeper, but it just really, really brings home that location. I think he's done artwork for some other stuff that looks kind of Italian. Positano is one of the towns along the Amalfi Coast that we stopped at, and I've had a very hard time finding something that I liked for that. I did buy from Alaton Embroidery on Etsy. It's just a round piece that you can put in a hoop kind of thing. which is probably about as close as I can come. There also is a Positano available from Awesome Pattern Studio, as well as a Sorrento from Awesome Pattern Studio. I bought a lot of these, and then the more I thought about them, I've talked about this, how they look less really like the town necessarily. They've got the buildings stacked up, but it doesn't really give it's not as representational or literal picture of the towns. So something else I've looked at is on Etsy, the Amalfi Coast, Italy. It looks like a travel poster. It looks like the town of Atrani, so it very much looks like this town here, which is often called Amalfi, which is wrong. But it looks, I don't know, maybe a little more basic looking. It's from Unique Stitch Crafts on Etsy, and so it's about 6 inches by 8 inches if you did it in 14 count. And then there is also an Amalfi Coast, Italy from Simone Ballman Art on 14 count. This tends to be longer than I would like to have for fitting in a travel poster, so if I were to do it on 14 count, it would be 15.7 inches by 24.3, and I can size that down, but I think it would be hard pressed to get it. It's almost twice the size of an 11 inch, so that might not work for my needs. One that I really like is Tiles and Lemons. This is from Astra Pattern on Etsy. This would make a very good companion to the Amalfi version because it's got a lot of the same colors to it. So that might be one I would seriously consider. Another one would be Mediterranean Lemon Tiles from Natalka Studio. It's the same studio that makes this. They have a very beautiful one that I might consider doing as a companion with lemons in these same bright colors. Now in Ravello we went into a hotel that had this beautiful Italian floor. And apparently it was the hotel that Eisenhower stayed in when he was planning the attack on Monte Cassino in Italy during World War II. And so Italian tiles is this, and I saw this and it really reminded me of that. Apparently it is based on a design published in Venice in 1546, and they turned it vertically apparently. Here's the picture of the artwork, and the designer turned it on the diagonal. And so that's one I've picked up. And there's another one that very much reminds me of that as well. I don't have this one, but I'm looking at it. It's called Taking Flight. It's from Sampler's Cove Garibaldi Needlework on Etsy. And again, it looks very much like that floor tile that we've seen. In Ravello, there is also a Cathedral of Novello. It's called Naples Cathedral of Ravello. On Etsy, it says it's computer generated from Rick Creations, R-I-C Creations. It may have been a Mystic Stitch that I've seen before, and then they've done the computer art, so I'm not sure if they have permission for that, but it very much reminds me of a cathedral that we saw, identical to that. There is Sorrento Hotel it's a kit by Dimensions, and my only concern about this is it's a bike outside of a hotel. It says Sorrento on it, so I don't know that it really screams Sorrento to me, or Italy, other than the fact that it says Sorrento right on it. And then I do have on order Pompeii Mandala Chatelaine. Again, Chatelaines are running almost a year behind on Gloriana delivery. So, and then lemons, Cooler Designs has a couple of lemon designs as well. There's Italian lemons, and then what's just called lemons that are both from Cooler Designs. And I kind of like the shading on the one with the wording that says lemons. So they also have one that says olives, which reminds me of Spain. So maybe I would pick that up and do a Spain one for the olives. But that's what I have for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Ciao.